by using their names.
Okay, so just
I'm a
I'm
normal
gonna
guy.
assume,
Just a normal guy.
Hold on. I'm gonna assume. Hold on. I'm gonna assume that you're being genuine here, and I'm gonna say, I'm just asking what your third person pronouns are, so that when the
Oh, my
chat
mistake. I
refers to
apologize. Gotcha.
that's what we're asking. That's whenever anybody
yeah.
asks you what are your pronouns, they're just asking what your third person pronouns are, so they know how to refer to you in conversation without saying your name over and over and over again.
Okay, yeah.
Otherwise, we all sound like
that makes sense, and that's a much more eloquent way of putting it. A lot of people don't describe it like that.
All right, so I assume you use he/him pronouns.
Yeah, you'd be right.
For your
You're
third.
correct.
All right, great. Okay, what topic on the board did you want to debate about today?
Well, I just wanted to, if I look down the list, let's go with everyone's most popular orange man. Let's go with Trump.
Okay. I'm assuming you voted for Trump in the 2024 election?
I did.
Did you vote for him in 2020?
No, I was deployed.
Okay. What about 2016?
No, I was still deployed. I did a lot of deployments. I was in the military at that time, and voting, if you don't know, in the military is slightly more difficult.
No problem. Yeah. Did you support him in 2016 when he was?
I did support him over Hillary, but I wasn't in the game of politics at that time.
Okay. Sure. So then I'll just ask you the question: What is it about Trump specifically? I'd like to know, like policy-wise, what is it about Trump that leads you to still offer him your support as an American citizen?
Well, my support for him over this last election wasn't mainly about his policy. It was mainly about my ire for Kamala Harris because I grew up in California, and I didn't like her positions as when she was a prosecutor. So she destroyed any trust I could have had in her at that time.
Which specific things as prosecutor did you disagree with?
I didn't like the fact that she got caught hiding evidence. I didn't like the fact that she kept people over their time in prison. I believe when you've done your time and you paid your set debt to society, all should be forgiven and you should be able to move on with your life and be a productive member of society and not be harassed forever. And I damn sure don't believe that you should be held in longer. I think as a society, we should have a capacity for forgiveness.
Okay. So, and you believe that this was more important than basically anything else in the election, I'm assuming.
It was my major decision as to not being able to trust her. It had nothing to do with her being a female. It had nothing to do with this whole Willie Brown bullshit nor this typical attack you hear about people calling her. Oh.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to say. So first of all, I like to preface any conversation I have regarding the Democrats that I'm not a fan of the Democrats. I'm not a fan of Kamala Harris. I do think when it comes to policy positions, Kamala Harris was easily had over Trump in like every single person, right? I think I like in every position I felt like Kamala Harris had a better policy position than Donald Trump.
Can I ask?
Right.
Can I ask?
So when I look at, yeah, sure.
So I'll preface this by saying I feel like in every single one of their rallies, both of them failed to nail down the details of their policy. Well, what policy?
Wholeheartedly.
Do you have a one-to-one comparison of policy, like something that they were opposite on, that you would give me an example of so I can understand your point?
Sure. And when it comes to increasing homeownership rates, Trump believes the way to do this is by removing red tape on private homeownership. So the building of homes. So he believes that privatizing this more and allowing the private sector more freedom is going to lead to more home ownership in the United States, where Kamala believes the best way to incentivize home ownerships was to give first-time homebuyers tax credits. Specifically, I think she was $25,000 for a first-time homebuyer tax credit, right? Because she believes that the way for people to buy homes would be because we already have a litany of homes on the market. So the best way to get them into those homes would be to not only get them the money that they need to get into the homes, but she also believed that it was she believed in limiting the amount of private equity firms that could buy up single family units to then like rent them. So she also believed in that. I believe when looking at these two policies, we've seen no relevant change in home ownership when when we allow for the private sector to like get more into to like giving them more leeway on building, we actually see the opposite because it's the private equity firms that then go and buy up that property. So
Okay.
I don't think Trump's plan would, and we see this now. Like we haven't seen any change in homeownership numbers. So we haven't seen a significant change in homeownership numbers. So I don't believe his plan is currently working. And if we hit the recession that is being predicted right now, we're really not going to see it work. People are going to start losing their homes.
Okay. Do you think we're already in a recession?
No, we're in the there's something that comes before a recession that I think we're in. I think we've officially moved into that. Let me see.
We can look it up. We have the technology. We can find out together. Recession.
I mean, recession is technically like negative growth over.
That's what
right.
I think you're right.
Inflation.
I think contraction is where we're at right now.
Yeah, one second.
Which contraction is like a period of like decline in economic activity, which we're slowly seeing, which is reduction in GDP, an increase in the deficit. We're seeing grocery prices go, like inflation is still rising, so people are spending less. So I actually think we're in the contraction stage right now. But no, I wouldn't say we're in a recession currently. No, I don't think we've hit the recession level.
Although I think a lot of economists think we're very much so at risk of going into a recession in the near future.
Yeah, I don't remember what the current estimate is, but I think it's 2026. They're estimating that if we're going to see those recession indicators pop up, it's going to like majorly hit us then. But there could also be, there could be a shift and change in anything could happen. There could be something that happens that
Okay.
like if Trump decides, hey, I'm putting 150% tariffs on literally everybody, we'll probably see it sooner.
All right.
Right?
Let's talk.
He's going back and forth on the tariffs.
I have a question about your perspective on the whole tariff thing. I know it's a bold statement. It's a bold thing. It's a concept to grasp. A lot of people don't like it. But did it bring different countries to the table? And that factually, yes, different countries did come to the table, and people would say he backed down on his tariffs, which by definition he did back down on his tariffs, but he backed down on his tariffs after getting economic agreement signed, which is true.
Well,
So-
we were already in talks with those countries. Like there wasn't a single country that like came to the table that wasn't already at the table.
Yeah, but
China's
the tariffs
been
worked as a what's the word I'm looking for? As not I don't like saying ammo because that's still my military mindset I'm trying to get away from now that I'm retired.
His idea, or no, this wasn't his idea. I think this is the idea of his cabinet. Maybe he doesn't want to back down on those tariffs. He wants those tariffs implemented. He doesn't care. I think his cabinet recognizes like, well, let's just at least try to use them as a bargaining tool.
You think
can
that,
tell
but
this
do you have any proof of that?
I just think when you listen to the way he talks about tariffs, he
so-
doesn't understand that. He doesn't even understand that he still believes that the tariff is paid by the country you tariff. Like he was saying shit like this 2 months ago.
Yeah, on its face,
Right,
a tariff by that, but everybody knows that a business can write
problem
off
is
the
this
expenses to
between
the
countries-
people consumer. Everyone knows that a
It's also
business
trying
can do
to
that.
use them to negotiate with countries that have a trade deficit, or not a trade deficit, a trade the opposite of a trade deficit.
It's a bargaining tool, and that's how that's in my opinion, that's how he's using it.
That trade surplus with us. Why are we bargaining with those countries?
Because there's always
Those
a better
countries
deal to get
shouldn't
made.
share
It'd be naive for us to say that
Hey,
there
what's
isn't
better than
countries
a-
that take
what's
advantage
better
of
than a surplus,
America consumer. We have the largest consumer market in the world.
Wait, but what's better than a trade surplus?
I'm sorry, you cut out.
What is better than a trade surplus?
You
with
just
us?
said we were in a trade deficit, I thought.
No. There are countries that we have trade. It goes by country. Some countries were in a trade deficit where we buy more than they get, but there are plenty of countries that buy more from us than we take from them.
Okay.
And he's trying to tariff those countries too.
Okay.
So why are we tariffing
Let's-
countries that have a positive
Let's
trade
look at the
interaction?
motivation why he would do these tariffs and why he does it boastingly. His fan base mostly are people who were pissed off that all the manufacturing stuff is no longer in America. Is that true? Yeah, I believe that's true. I think you would concede that that is true, right?
I think they have a misunderstanding of U.S. manufacturing.
I know,
yeah,
but I'm just saying.
I don't
A lot of
know
his
what
fan
they
base thinks that. They believe that.
Sure, yeah.
So when he does these tariffs, he uses that as a reinforcement of their own beliefs, which is what a lot of Republicans and Democrats need to do to maintain their fan base. Is that true or not?
Sure.
Okay.
So we're just saying
that's why he's doing that. That's why he's standing up on his soapbox and saying, "Look what I'm doing. Look, I'm trying to be manufacturing back." And they don't ride into the details. A lot of the fans don't want to go in and do the details and the work of finding that. They don't care about the nuance of it.
Okay, so he's
I don't
just
remember
doing
exactly
it.
what it was, but doesn't a lot of the polling that shows that people want the manufacturing jobs also show that when you ask them if they would want to work those manufacturing jobs, that the overwhelming majority of them are like super opposed to that?
Do you have that poll that we can look up? We could probably put it on
Well,
screen.
I don't even think we
Don't
need
off the
that.
top of my
I don't even
hands.
think we need that poll.
We
I think
find
it just. I think it's. If it is the case that he's just doing it because his base doesn't understand stuff and he wants his base to support him, then we know for a fact that he doesn't understand tariffs and he's willing to harm the U.S. economy just to please his base, which I think is I think is a reason we probably shouldn't support him at that point.
Well, whether we support him or not right now, that's not going to change the fact that he is there for 3 years. I will say there's people who have leftist support umbrella, and there's people who are communist support umbrella.
Sure. The question on the board, though, is why do you still support him? Right. That's the question that I'm posing here.
Well, my biggest thing for supporting him was the Doge agenda. That was the biggest thing because working for the government for the 12 years before I got injured, I could tell you right now, this idea of spending all the money given to you in your budget, there's an absolute fear in all government agencies that if you do not spend all the money, you will not get as much. So in the last final parts of the year, they waste the money on ridiculous things. It's an absolute fact. It's not up for debate. I experienced it. And granted, my experience is anecdotal. I will say that my experience is anecdotal, but working on multiple warships and multiple different logistics situations, they do that. They waste a lot of money. So that was honestly something that I resonated with, was finding out exactly where our money went and where our money should
the problem
be going.
is Doge didn't do that. Doge didn't cut things we didn't know about. Doge was cutting congressionally approved spending, right? Or spending that Congress
Did they cut or
not
pause
only
it and set it for a
approved,
revote?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So what did Congress and the House just voted on? The Doge cuts.
No, they voted on the budget bill.
Yeah,
budget,
part of that
the budget
was
bill and
the
Doge
presented.
Doge cutting U.S. aid is illegal because U.S. aid was a congressional. Like they have Doge effectively didn't like.
What did they cut in USA that was illegal?
Well, cutting any congressionally approved spending is illegal. Congress has to cut congressionally approved spending.
So Congress approves a
branch.
budget. Just take me through the process.
Yes.
Congress approves of the budget. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And those different companies, do they have to spend? Are they legally required to spend all that money on that thing?
They're well, yeah, in a sense.
A governmental
Okay.
organization.
They're required to spend whatever like they're required to spend the stuff Congress.
I
approved
think
them
you're
for.
mistaking
They can
required with the ability to. I think you're mistaking those two things. The ability to do
I'm
something
not.
and the requirement to do something.
I'm not. They don't have to spend it all.
Okay, so they're
Right,
not
they
legally
can
required to do it.
To spend it?
Yes.
No, they don't have to spend all. Of
Okay,
it.
so
They can end the year with more budget, with like more,
Okay.
or they can end the year with money.
so
that
they can
didn't
determine
spend.
based off their budget what is necessary, what is not necessary at any point in that calendar or that calendar year, correct?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So if Congress approves X amount of dollars, let's say they approve $100 for this company to use throughout the entire calendar year
Sure.
or fiscal year,
Sure.
excuse me.
Sure.
All right. And say throughout that fiscal year, they have 5 programs. They choose to spend $70 on 3 of the programs, but they choose the other 2 programs they didn't want to spend money on. So they have this excess amount of money. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Why is that wrong? Because that's, in layman's terms, what Doge was doing, was saying that these programs were not worth the taxpayers' dollars.
Because Doge is not. Doge can't decide what they spend the funding on. Doge is not those programs, and Congress didn't give Doge the authority to decide that.
Okay, but
Congress
did the
gives
president have the authority to
where the
decide
budget
what?
goes.
Did the president
No, the
have
president
authority
doesn't have
over
the authority to do that
USAID?
either. No,
the executive-
it's not for budget. Not budget. Not for budget. Budget is Congress. Constitutionally, the budget is Congress. Not
I
the
know.
president has no budget.
Finalizing
making
how much money goes where is Congress's job. I agree with that. But deciding how that money is spent in those different agencies, who's in charge of that?
It depends on who's the front of USAID, and I think USAID reports to Congress. Do they not?
Well, let's find out. Let's Google it today. We can learn this together. This is where a lot of this nuance and a lot of these issues come to fight because a lot of people don't understand. Okay, the USAID is an agency within the executive branch. It's just a quick Google search that I'm doing on my stream right now. Okay,
Mhm.
so if it
Well,
is
then
under
let's
the
see.
executive branch,
It's well, no, it's pretty easy. We just check if if in the law the president has the power to not rebudget, so remove budget.
I'm not
So if the
saying they're
president has
not. They didn't remove budget though. They said what
did remove
they would
budget.
pay for within the approved budget, and they said these programs were not worth paying for in the approved budget. They didn't lower the budget. They didn't
No, the
take money
Trump
away from the budget.
administration. Yeah, no, the Trump administration proposed cuts to foreign aid, including restructuring of USAID. It was a reduction of 6.3 billion from the budget.
Was it a
And then,
reduction? If they removed the money from the budget, where'd the money go? Did that money? My question is, did that money stay at the possible use of USAID? Did they cut the program, or did they actually take that money from the budget and return it to Congress?
Let me pull it up real quick. They cut funding and operations at USAID. Let me see how much. Give me 1 second. I hate when the article says you have
I understand, man. Take your time, please. There's no rush. I'm trying to be friendly. If I come off rude, please tell me because I'm trying to.
Yeah, I just need the exact. I don't have the exact number. I'm just trying to pull the exact number.
I know, because my major point is I think people are mistaking cutting the budget with cutting a program, and there's a vast difference.
Okay, so just really quickly, they tried to freeze the budget. They haven't been able to do that because the district courts put a restraining order on that because it's illegal for Trump to freeze the budget of USAID.
Okay.
So that was in February. And then what happened was, give me a second, I'm just going through the timeline. The Supreme Court granted a stay on the freeze. And then the government, in Defendant's Exhibit B, in the Supreme Court case, United States Department of State versus Donald J. Trump, the court documents revealed that they cut approximately. While by the way there was a stay, while there was a freeze on while there was a court order saying they were not allowed to freeze the budget, they cut the budget during that.
Okay, what does that mean? They cut. What is it saying? Does it give an example of how they cut the budget? Does it give numbers and saying where they took the money from? Because cutting the budget means they took X amount of dollars from the overall pot of money and moved it somewhere else.
I'm sorry. They terminated the majority of U.S. aid and State Department foreign aid grants and contracts.
Okay, so that's a program. That's not a budget.
No. Yes, no. That's why I said it was my mistake. It was
I understand. I feel like I'm being. I feel like I'm being rude. I apologize if I'm being rude.
Let me see here. I'm just going through the timeline. After that, there was more stuff in court with Rubio. Blah 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 blah.
Okay, can I read something I found real quick? I don't want to be rude.
Sure.
So,
no, go ahead.
Examples of programs and agencies affected. This is just straight Google AI synopsis. U.S. agencies and international development, USAID, has experienced significant cuts, roughly 83% of its programs being cut in March, including the termination, and then it lists the programs. And it's not the only agency. So it seems that Doge is actually cutting programs and not removing money from budgets, but people are going to court and people are making a fuss saying that they're cutting the budget when that's not accurate. It's almost like they're lying intentionally or obfuscating intentionally to rile people up. Was that something you would say this could be true? I'm not saying it is a fact. I'm saying it's something that could be true.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to weigh in on this stuff because I'm not quite as educated on all the details and numbers.
I would say yes, but I don't think Trump has the power as of 1998 with the Foreign Affairs Reform and Restructuring Act, because it looks like during that section, Congress established USAID as its own agency. So I don't know that he has the power to cut programs left and right, and I think that's why it's currently being challenged in court. So different than what we were saying, but it looks like that might be where the court issue is.
All right, but my main question is well, it's not my main question. A question I have is, do you think it's a good idea if a program is not fruitful or if a program is not producing the desired effect to potentially cut that program?
No, I think we have. I think we have attorney generals for that. Like that's the whole point of the attorney general process is to do overviews each year and look at where the waste is coming in, and they usually do a pretty good job of that.
Do they? Because we have a massive
Yes.
deficit. I would say they're doing a terrible job in the last every attorney
But
general forever.
our deficit doesn't come. Our deficit comes from Trump implementing more spending that he is taking in revenue.
I agree with that.
He's-
I agree with that. I'm not saying the entire. I
Yeah.
didn't say the entire deficit is. I'm saying a good chunk of the deficit is from people mismanaging money and putting money where it doesn't come back.
I disagree.
You disagree.
Yeah, I
you
would
disagree that our deficit isn't from wasting money.
Yeah. It's not a waste of money. It's that we're cutting our revenue. We have the money. We're cutting revenue.
Okay, so cutting cost versus cutting revenue. Is that what you're saying? They're cutting revenue instead of cutting cost.
Yeah, when you remove revenue and you raise spending.
Okay, let's find out. Let's look up how much revenue USAID has raised.
What do you mean? How much revenue? USAID doesn't raise revenue. The
Oh,
government raises revenue.
okay, so they are cutting cost by removing these programs.
Wait, homie, what are you talking about?
You said that
none of the removal of these programs have accounted for the amount of money that Trump has spent.
I'm not saying it did. I'm saying by removing these programs that they are cutting costs. Simply by definition, they are cutting cost of programs that are not proving fruitful and that are not proving to get the job done.
Not proving fruitful from whose
by not
determination?
reaching the goal of the program. That simple.
Wait, what is the goal of USAID?
Let's look it up. Let's look up their mission statement. Let's look it up. I understand why you're being broad. I'm saying that these individual programs, I'm saying these individual programs that are being cut are being determined by the by Doge to not be worth, the juice is not worth the squeeze, is a vernacular I'll use. They're saying they're not worth the effort and they're not worth the cost. And then it goes under review, which it just did. The Doge cuts did just get voted on in the House to be implemented into the next year's budget.
Yeah, so my question again is, what is the purpose of USAID?
All right, I'll read it to you right now. USAID's mission is to partner to an extreme poverty and promote resilient democratic societies while advancing U.S. security and prosperity. So, if they have a program, let's look up some of the programs that were cut.
Hold on, I gotta get my pizza. Arden, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta keep
I love pizza, man. What'd you get?
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to have nearly as much as Jovan to offer on this. I mean, I talk about these things to some degree, but yeah, I definitely came here expecting to talk about trans issues, so my brain is not on.
I don't think there's been enough data on trans issues for anybody to make a sound statement. I think people who are adults should make their own decisions. It's that simple.
Well, let's not even open that can of worms because it's such a sidetrack from the conversation we're actually having, and there's already so much in that one sentence that I would take issue with. So I'd rather we just don't even open the can of worms and call back another time or wait till we're totally done with this topic to open that can of worms.
Yeah, no problem. I got you. Ugh. While I was waiting, I saw you had a couple reptiles. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I keep lots of snakes. I've got several different species. There's lizards in most of these, and then a few snakes.
Yeah, my girlfriend and her son, they just rescued 7 tadpoles that all turned into healthy frogs yesterday. Pretty
cool.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I would just ask really quickly, Sean, what programs specifically were cut from USAID? Like what programs
for us right now? Cut by Give me 1 second, it's loading.
Perplexity is saying emergency food aid, public health initiatives, climate environmental programs, LGBTQ and gender equity initiatives.
Okay, those are broad categories. I'm talking about actual titles of actual programs. Those are just categories.
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, I'm looking up the information for you right now because I'm not a syllabus on Doge's actions. I'm just saying I understand their mission, and I agree with it.
Because I'm saying, if USAID, if their point is to if the point of that program is to foster help for countries that are economically disadvantaged, and we remove programs that do that, you support that.
So, how many of these countries where this money is sent to do a certain mission is not used for that mission?
That, what does that have to do with anything?
That's called, so like I'm saying, how many of these politicians in these countries who receive X amount of funds, because we're not sending fucking graham crackers over there to feed people. We're not sending MREs. We're not sending foods and chefs. We're sending money so that they can purchase these things in a lot of cases, in most cases. And a lot of the time, this money doesn't get spent on what it's for. We all know this.
What's the evidence? What's the evidence of that?
All right, well, let's pull that up too. Why? Oh, it's
Wasn't there like multiple tons of food for USAID that was going bad?
We need to see the evidence that the money that they sent is not going to paying what they are saying that they're paying.
Okay, do you have evidence showing that they are doing that? We could play that game if you want.
No.
We can play that whole.
You weren't making.
We could play that whole
you are making
high tag I asked first thing, or we could be honest with each other.
No. Wait, Sean, you can't pull that.
No, you're
did, claiming. No, I didn't. All I'm doing is saying the money is going here. We have attorney generals who look at USAID every year, and they haven't said that a bulk of this money is being spent somewhere that it shouldn't be. So now you have to provide the proof that it is. Otherwise,
no,
we're cutting a program.
What you're doing is you're tagging home base and saying, "Prove to me this," so you don't have to argue the point anymore.
You're doing a speculative argument. You're saying
and you're using a speculative request so that you don't have to show any evidence to support your side.
No, I'm not.
When the burden of proof is not just on me, it is on both of us.
No, the burden of proof is 100% just on you.
Because you want to sit on this higher pedestal and say that.
Wait, Sean, you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. If I were to go, hey, we should close my son's school because there's a little gnome who lives in the walls and every day he comes out and kicks kids in the shin. And you said, well, Jovan, prove that happens. And I go, well, you prove it didn't happen. That's what you're doing.
That's exactly what you're doing.
The burden of proof is 100%. There's no way.
You're setting a bar. Oh, he got mad. There it is, guys. Once they get cornered, they'll look for any kind of way to get out of it. Hilarious. Let's look at him. I guarantee you he's in there calling me a fascist.
So sorry I was leaving you alone on that, but I was like,
what?
This guy is asking for like hardline facts and data, and I'm like,
you don't have them because
they
don't have
information.
Anyway, it was a lot of fun.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Make sure we give these guys a like and subscribe.
No,
they're very
negative.
Nice. They're rude, but they're nice.
Burden of proof is on the claimant always.
But they always fail on the evidence.
He tried to get into the quality of evidence on trans care while you were gone for a second. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Like, no.
That is an abject lie.
We're not opening that can of worms right now.
Happen is the craziest shit, bro.
I like to debate, but I don't like to shift gears that radically in the middle of a conversation. My brain cannot handle it. Like everything that I know would instantly vaporize in my skull.
You like to make accusations and then run away, and then try to set some kind of pedestal.
Yeah, somebody in my chat was also saying he's arguing a lot of semantics, like program cuts versus budget cuts. I was going to point that out.
That's not semantics. It's a budgetary fact.
Sure, if they're cutting a program, maybe that's not technically cutting a budget, but isn't that functionally the outcome?
No, not at all. You're absolutely wrong.
The program that's receiving money that was allocated via
that's one leftist group, two people,
this
a 2v1 where I was able to completely shut down one who was completely unable to debate, and the other one who had to choose his pizza over getting this stuff done. So I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate
starting office hours and probably got time for one
Celine Winter, I'm sorry
calls before office hours.
Let me just
like, comment, subscribe. Let me know how it goes.
And then we'll do office hours.
Bye.
Tell people another fun fact about snakes.
Enjoy watching these people in their copium.
Let's see. What snake facts do I have on hand?